You know, this member in particular, think in terms of the national school program, a program that feeds children. What does this member specifically have to say about that program? He was very clear that the national school program was garbage.
Wow.
That was what he said. I believe that member owes an apology to all Canadians.
There's anyone in this House that needs to apologise? It's that big mouth from Winnipeg that's always spinning that false liberal narrative.
Oh, yeah.
Honour to stand here in this place as a Member of Parliament representing Newfoundland and Labrador, and especially the riding that sent me here, now known as Central Newfoundland. So I stand today, Mr. Speaker, to talk about C-15, the Budget Implementation Act, and the impact that it has on ordinary Canadians, ordinary Newfoundlanders, ordinary folks from Central Newfoundland, and the impacts that it has on industry in Canada. And my take on this budget, Mr. Speaker, from my point of view as the Shadow Minister for Fisheries and Oceans. Budget 2025 lays out $78 billion deficit. There's a liberal spending problem in this country, Mr. Speaker. They've increased our national debt as much as all the rest of the governments in Canada that preceded it. And they've done it in just 10 years. Well, how do we pay for that debt? Where does the money come from, Mr. Speaker? Well, one simple way is by selling bonds. So we sell the bonds, we pay interest to the bondholders. But who's really paying that? Paying the lease. Who's really paying the lease on those new printed dollars? Well, it's ordinary Canadians. And $55 billion is the cost to ordinary Canadians. $55 billion that could be giving relief to Canadians. That could be lowering their cost of living. $55 billion more than spent in health care by the federal government, more than is collected in HST. This big debt is breaking Canadians. And half of that $55 billion in interest is due to this government right here. So, printing money devalues a nation's currency. We recall pictures of World War II in Germany, where it took a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a loaf of bread. Well, Mr. Speaker, inflation is not quite that bad here yet, but it's getting up there with the doubling of food bank usage since these Liberals came to power. You know, we're really reaping what we've sowed in Canada. Or let me rephrase that. What these Liberals have sowed since 2015. So not only do they have a spending problem, now they've got a revenue problem. Because we've lost billions and billions of dollars in revenue in mining and in oil and gas. And we're feeling that now. Because Canada is a country with a vast social net for the citizens, but it has to be paid for. So if we can't harvest our resources properly, then we're leaving revenue on the table. And in the case of Newfoundland and Labrador, in the last 3 years, we haven't had one bid on an offshore lease for oil and gas. No one wants to take a chance to invest in an exploration program in Newfoundland and Labrador's offshore, not with the unconstitutional Bill C-69, And in the case of Newfoundland and Labrador and Nova Scotia, we've got C49, which industry experts tell me is an even bigger drag on investment in Newfoundland and Labrador's offshore than C69 is. So the last little piece here is the emissions caps. But not as crippling as Bill C49, I'm told. So how many billions of dollars are we losing in royalty revenue? Well, in the case of Bay du Nord, which took almost 1,300 days for permitting, every day that that project is not producing, $333 million in royalties are stranded. I hope that paints a little picture. So we see continued crippling of the oil and gas and mining industries by this Liberal government, and false narratives being spun. They talked about in the budget, oh, the emissions caps, they may go one of these days if A, B, C, D, E, F, and G are all done. Right. But there's no guarantee that emissions caps are going to be done. They're not going to be gone based on what's in the budget, because it's all hypothetical. Yet, Liberals and certain media in Newfoundland and Labrador have touted that, oh, this is the end of emissions caps or productions caps. But it's a false narrative that's been spun, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister talks a big talk about national projects. But in the meantime, billions and billions of dollars continue to flee Canada. And it's not going to stop until the crippling red tape that I outlined earlier gets cut. Those resource industry killing pieces of legislation desperately need to be changed. It's more important to resource provinces to have proper legislation in place, Mr. Speaker, than it is to continue to keep them on the dole, keep them waiting for handouts, always beholding to Ottawa. Now, I'll speak a little bit about the fishery as it relates to this budget, or as the budget relates to the fishery, Mr. Speaker. And I just alluded to the misleading nature of the Prime Minister. Well, in the election, these Liberals promised a $250 million expansion of the small craft harbours budget. There's nothing in the budget except mentioning money that was promised. In fact, in one instance, I don't know who proofread the budget, Mr. Speaker, but they're referring to 2022 and 2023 small craft harbours money. It's unbelievable. And continuing on down to the shoreline on the fishery, Mr. Speaker, we just had a big report come out. We just had a big report come out of Marine Institute and Memorial University. And they talked about the amount of predation by seals on the fish stocks. And this new study says that 24 times more fish is consumed by seals, by harps alone, which is only about half of the biomass of seals in the Atlantic Ocean, considering it's only one of 5 species. 24 times. So, since 2010, Canada's fishing industry has actually seen its GDP shrink. In the meantime, Norway's GDP in the fishery has increased 4.5-fold in the same length of time. So I see these pittances in the budget that are put there, about $20 million a year for agricultural food and seafood product marketing. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's a slap in the face for the fishing industry. For folks in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland and Labrador, PEI, New Brunswick, Quebec, that have seen tariffs due to China, the China fiasco that's on the go here, has cost that industry about $100 million this year. So I will not be supporting this budget, Mr. Speaker. It's an amateur scrapbook job. Thank you.
Here, here.
Questions and comments? Question and commentaire. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to compare Conservatives to the Liberal government. You know, this member in particular, think in terms of the national school program, a program that feeds children. What does this member specifically have to say about that program? He was very clear that the national school program was garbage.
Wow.
That was what he said. I believe that member owes an apology to all Canadians with respect to this program. Will he stand up today and apologize on behalf of himself and the Conservative Party for their approach on this national program that is there to care for our children?
Here, here. Great.
The Honourable Member for Central Newfoundland.
Mr. Speaker, if there's anyone in this House that needs to apologise, it's that big mouth from Winnipeg that's always spinning that false Liberal narrative about... Mr. Speaker, less than 10% of schools in Canada can take advantage.
For Courtney Alberni.
I mean, there's got to be some decorum in here. I mean, the insults are not acceptable. Canadians are counting on us to have good debate about important issues. I think that's out of line on both, and I have deep respect for both members, Mr. Speaker. I want to highlight that.
That's a great reminder. The standing orders for decorum do still apply, so I remind the member for Central Newfoundland to be careful with his words. I'll let him finish, and then we'll continue with debate.
I'm sorry, I'll say an overused and extremely loud mouth from the other side. But Mr. Speaker, they continue to tout these social programs that they come out with that just don't work.
And the member's time is up.